Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We have about 6 to 7 articles here, and let's get going. I have 2 articles coming from the Ukrainians who inform us, if you didn't know, that the Russians actually captured Ukrainians who tried to land in Crimea to conduct subversive activities. If you remember, the Ukrainians made a big deal about their successful landings by special forces in Crimea and taking pictures with some houses in the middle of the night. And you didn't know if that was in Crimea, New York, or somewhere in Poland. Nevertheless, one at least that we have here was captured, and he is imprisoned. And he was sentenced to some good years in prison. Did you know that guy existed? And it's very interesting because these 2 articles that I have, they're going to use different terms to describe the title of the individual. I will obviously share that with you. The other one, I've been saying this for some time, and I think is valid. The Americans, the American government, will go all the way in many times and eventually out of the Ukraine war. They will try to destroy Russia. We all know that one. If you don't, you got a lot of work to do. Nevertheless, stick around and you will figure it out. And I said that the Americans will provide everything, including troops, little by little, under the euphemistic terms of whatever, just peacekeeping force or love-making troops or something like that. They will provide, and their Western jackals, what I call them, vassal states, they will provide Ukraine with everything. There was a little debate lately if the Americans will allow the Ukrainians hit some targets deep inside Russia, and if they should provide Ukraine with some long-range missiles. And now they do. They play the same game that I mentioned many times before, called the mountain slope model. No, we're not going to do it, but I don't think we'll do it. It's just like this to prepare the baboons to accept the decision that has been made years in advance. So US nears a decision to provide Ukraine with long-range missiles for F-16s. Well, we knew that. It's just that these guys announce it now for the baboons who are marinated and ready to be put on the grill, so they accept the garbage. The problem is the Russians said that missiles that could be attached to the F-16s could be provided nuclear warheads. Therefore, they're going to treat this as that. So if these guys are going to provide that, I don't know, the Russians will have an answer. What kind of answer? I don't know. The Russians have nuclear missiles as well. Next topic. Let's see what we have here. We have here an example of why so-called celebrities or actors, rich actors, or how they like to call them now, athletes. Only a basketball player is an athlete now, and a baseball is an athlete. Yeah, it's an athlete. Okay, playing a game, go hoops. All right, no problem. That's an athlete. So yeah, I understand. But this is one reason why I would give an example. You should listen to the so-called personalities or VIPs or people like, let's say, Clooney, the actor Clooney, and his wife, very much involved in some United Nations little hanky-panky, human rights, and she's very compassionate. Nevertheless, Clooney makes a statement, and you should listen to these guys, but don't give them any extra credibility or authority in what they say. Remember, we all build our credibility by statements and definitely by actions. So in Clooney's state or situation, I will show you how clueless he is or how an asshole he is. One of the two, or maybe both in the same time. He makes some statements about President Biden that I think are ignorant or are just, he just knows it and he plays an ugly game, which is influence the baboons in one direction when actually he knows that's a lie. Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russian Federation, tells us that there are 50 countries united against Russia under Nazi banners. End quote. This is very interesting because I've been saying this for I don't know, 2 years or more, that the Al Capone's plantation is formed of about 40 countries up to mostly 50 countries. Why? It's very easy to pinpoint who's always yes, yes, yes. European Union, Palau, Papua New Guinea, and then Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, Japan, and maybe one more Far East country. That's all. That's all. It's easy to see them, consistent. But these guys were gonna, jump ship immediately when they're gonna see that the Russians and the Chinese could not be squashed by Al Capone. So I'm gonna show you what Lavrov said and how he says it. Another topic. Finally, NATO being the United States of America, smacks Poland over its beak. You remember, Poland is very verbal, as are the Baltic states, which they want to shoot Russian missiles or drones attacking Ukraine, coming their direction, regardless how far they are. So they're not going to shoot the maybe Ukrainian or Russian missiles or drones coming into Poland. That's all they do, violating their airspace, which they can declare war to the aggressor, which they don't, because of declaring war, that means you are opening yourself to being punched in the balls like that. So therefore, they don't like that. Why? Because they're too strong. They want only to be able to punch, but never to be punched back. So NATO tells Poland, hold on, motherfucker, stay down. Stay down, don't even try. If you do it on your own. Now, obviously, these guys lied before, which is NATO, everybody actually, I mean, let's be inclusive on this one, all right? So they lied before, not trustworthy whatsoever. So these are the topics for today. Let's start with the first one, and let me show you the article, one of them. So, Ukrainska Pravda, Russia sentences Ukrainian intelligence officer. You see how beautiful it's made? He's just an intelligence officer, a guy who was just listening to certain things, and to 20 years after capturing him during Crimea landing. And we find out from New Voice of Ukraine, which is also a Ukrainian media outlet, New Voice of Ukraine, Ukraine's captured Special Forces soldier received 20-year sentence in Russia. So which one do you think qualifies, this or this? I mean, just a Ukrainian intelligence officer, he just communicated, transmitting some intelligence, some information, or a Special Forces soldier. You know what a Special Forces soldier usually does? Yeah, exactly. In the middle of the night, okay, ready. That's what they do, and then pop, and get the fuck out. Right? They produce some problems in wherever the objective is. So let's read a little bit from the second article. This is the guy with Puma. Okay, he promotes Puma. Good, German company. I like Puma until they become woke. And when they become woke, drop. All right, the Russian court has sentenced the Ukrainian military intelligence special forces soldier for 20 years in prison for his role in a mission in annexed Crimea. According to a September 3rd report by the Russian state-owned news agency TASS, the Southern District guilty of terrorism, illegal border crossing, and smuggling weapons and explosives. So the intelligence officer was armed with live ammunition and explosives. So look at that one and look at just an intelligence officer. That's all. It was. When you think about an intelligence officer, what do you think of? And special forces. I mean, you can intertwine them here and there, but intelligence is the one that listens to you, reports on you, follows you, communicates, gets information like a semi-spy. Let's put it this way. I know I'm stretching the term, but you understand? That's a intelligence officer. Look at America, what an intelligence officer is. And then it's a special force soldier, which is the guy like, I don't know, how do you call that? Foreign Legion in France. You consider that as special forces. All right, so that's the first topic. Let's go to the second one, which is it's just a confirmation for me and for many of you. I guarantee you that U.S. nears decision to provide Ukraine with long-range missiles for F-16s. Reuters, September 3rd, today, Tuesday, 2024. Ukrainska Pravda. So if these F-16s are going to provide it with long-range missiles, that could be fitted with nuclear warheads, the Russians said, we will consider that as a threat, as a nuclear threat against our country and our statehood, our nation. That means click, 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 the nuclear weapons use protocol would be right there, could be activated. So it's dangerous, but it's no surprise. They played this game since the beginning of this war. We're going to send some, the first word, how do you call those, the launcher, how they call them, juveniles, those are the first ones that they just donated, gave to Ukraine, that you're already implicated, you're at war with me, attack. That's what I would be. But anyway, but I know I'm crazy, those guys are not. But if the things would be reversed, what do you think the other side would do? Exactly what I said. Imagine, let's say the Americans are just invading again Cuba. Bay of Pigs is a reminder, right? When actually JFK got what? And then Oswald decided to be so accurate. You buy that shit? All right, and give me $20,000 today, and we'll meet tomorrow at noon at your location to give you the $20,000 plus 3,000% interest. With interest, I will give you back. Do you think we're gonna meet? Bye-bye. Anyway, but if you're so gullible, go ahead. So these guys, imagine that they invade Cuba again to overthrow a government, and then the Russians will send them weapons, and then they will send intelligence officers, and they said all kind of to fight the American invasion. How do you think the Americans will consider the Russians? Just, people over there? No, you're at war with me. But hey, that tells me how just those guys are. You don't have to be just, but at least tell us. We're assholes, man. But it's a pretense. Why? You have to have the baboons still going on time at work, paying their taxes, put their masks, take their, boosters, never get COVID again, stay in the basement, take their naps, and most importantly, shut the fuck up and don't rock the boat. Got that? All right. So let's read a little bit the first paragraph of this, which doesn't come as a surprise to me. Reuters, citing U.S. officials, reports that the U.S. is close to an agreement to provide Ukraine with long-range cruise missiles capable of reaching deep into Russian territory. That also implies that the Americans will allow the Ukrainians to hit deep inside Russia. So that's it. However, Kiev will need to wait a few months as technical issues need to be resolved before any delivery. Don't buy that. The Americans sent attack MS missiles, air defense systems secretly to Ukraine before they announced the baboons. Okay, so don't buy that. That's gonna happen. They go slowly for the baboons not to be, how do you call it, deranged or busy, taken out of their daily flea eating session from the fellow baboons. That's what it is. All right, let's go to the next article, which talks about the same thing. Reuters, U.S. close to agreeing. Is close. The decision has been made years, I guarantee you that. On long-range missiles for Ukraine delivery to take months. This is for now, and you're going to find out due to the circumstances, unforeseen circumstances, we have to do it 3 weeks ago. We just let you know right now, like we care. These guys don't have to tell us squat, but in our name, they do all kind of things. And then the repercussions will be on you and I. Not on them, they will be still there. Their kids will still attend Harvard, Yale, and all that. They will be in big, big business and banking systems, and they will be in charge of you and I. They will not be affected. You and I, our children, our grandchildren will keep toiling for the same guys. You'll see. I mean, look at the pattern. Unless you have a 3-minute attention span, and that's it, and you have a selective memory, which you don't. Since you are in this video, 14 minutes already. If you had a 3-minute attention span, you would have been gone. And you're right here, so thank you very much. Now, let me show you this Clooney guy. The Independent. George Clooney calls Biden most selfless president since George Washington because he knows the history and he can compare and contrast. After his damning op-ed urging him to drop out of race. Right? So we find out that in this, he's going to talk about how fantastic Joe Biden, the most selfless thing that anybody has done since George Washington, because he's hailed Joe Biden's decision to drop out of the 2024 presidential race as the most selfless thing that anybody has done since George Washington. Why he mentioned George Washington? Because George Washington, first, he didn't want to be in charge of the United States of America after the War of Independence. He said, okay, I'm going back to my old lady, and I'm gonna use her money and do whatever we need. Yeah, she's got the money. She was a, how do you call it? The widow, right? He was a surveyor. And then anyway, part of it. I'm not good for him. Good for him. If she needed that in those times, remember, if you're a widow or you were divorced, divorce was not really a thing, but widow, you were kind of young, someone to help you, and all that was a good way to come back into society in a good way. Nevertheless, so then he was elected in the first time and second time he was not elected by a popular vote. Remember, he was elected by just the guys in charge of the United States at that time. Remember, and then after 2 terms, he said, bye-bye, I really need to get going. So he did. Why? Because he had character. So he had character. That's why it was just this unspoken rule, an unwritten rule, that after just 2 terms. But then you have the communist Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and he said, well, you know what? Fuck you, I'm going to go 4 times. He went 4 times, but some people decided to, how much do you think we need to get his... Okay, have a drink, President. And he just had a little problem with his mistress fondling his little nuts. And anyway, so then the United States said, okay, let's make it clear 2 terms, because these garbages are going to violate that. They don't have character. That's why they're talking about the George Washington thing here. Now, just so you know, George Biden did not just drop out because he was selfless. He was freaking pushed out by whom? By many people behind the scenes. And I'm going to show you a number of articles here with just titles. But before that, remember, Joe Biden is one of the guys who selflessly, in a selfless manner, or selflessly, I don't know if it's a word or not, you know what I mean, just sends some other people's sons and daughters and husbands and fathers to fight somewhere else for Burisma and his guys in Ukraine. That's the selfless guy that we're talking about. Ukraine is his doing, right? Why? Because he defends all of us. See, he's selfless. All right, so let's go to these titles here. Pelosi helped push Biden aside. Oh my God, Clooney, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? Don't you know that, Clooney? Now, Nancy Pelosi helped pressure Joe Biden to end his campaign. All right, Biden harbors lingering frustration at Pelosi, Obama, Schumer. So you see how many they were, the selfless guy, these guys, Schumer, Obama, and Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi, who appeared to encourage, euphemism, man, ABC, what do you want? And here, how one of the most powerful women in America helped put, and here, in the last 3 weeks, one woman had emerged as the key driver of efforts to push the Democratic Party towards historic decision. Here's how Nancy Pelosi helped put Kamala, and that means push the imbecile out, the semi-dead guy, and this guy is either an asshole or he is an ignorant. He doesn't know shit, and he's talking, which we all do sometimes. I mean, you try not to be too idiotic, but you tell people based on some information. This was a low-hanging fruit for Clooney, don't you think? To know that it was the whole conspiracy thing to get him out, and he tells us that he's selfless. That's how tyrants are made. I saw that in Romania, and I didn't understand it as a kid with Ceausescu. People who kiss ass, they inflate the idiot's ego to such a thing that they really think that they are more important than they are. And then they say, well, if I'm so important, why don't I stay longer? Because you need me, obviously. All these guys tell me, they don't ask the rest. So ass kissing, like in office. If you go in the office and you see people who ask to kick ass to a supervisor or whatever, director or CEO, those guys want something, obviously, that they should not get. Because if you use these kind of tactics, that I'm losing my voice. That means they don't have the abilities needed in the job. Therefore, they try extracurricular activities, which is sometimes, and inflating the imbecile's ego to such an extent that he will never leave again. Because you need me, I'm a semi-god. All right? So Clooney is dangerous. All right? But this is an example. You should listen to people like Clooney or others if they say something smart, but verify. This was a long, low-hanging fruit for me to figure out this guy is just and he's very cool. Fuck off. Let's move on. Here you have Lavrov. Now this is a diplomat for you. As I said, frame this picture, put it on a wall, and all right. 50 countries united against Russia under quote-unquote Nazi banners, Lavrov. The West is trying to break up the Russian state because it is too strong and independent. The foreign minister has said, okay, now let's say this guy is misguided. He's just delusional. So the foreign minister of a very powerful country states that, no man, you guys want to destroy me. You want to kill me. And you say, no, that's bullshit. We're going to continue things in Ukraine. Don't you think you should consider talking with this guy? Wait, just a second. Oh, you're going to fight him on the field. But they don't. They don't fight the guy. They have someone else fighting the guy in. Why? Because they're too strong. They are a coalition fighting one country, but the country is not supposed to punch back. Only these guys right here, which are their brothers, which are the Ukrainians. So you understand how criminal this is? You fight your guy that you want to destroy with someone else, which is his cousin or brother. The Ukrainians and Russians are closer than any other. Poles with the Russians, Slovaks with the Russians, Bulgarians, Serbs with the Russians. The Ukrainians are the closest nation to them, if not the same, some say. Anyway, just some Polish influences in Ukraine, and you got the Ukrainian nation. There you have it. On the Russians living in Ukraine. But hey, that's their history. Let them be. Let's get to the point here. So even if that guy who thinks you're going to destroy him, who has the capability to destroy you with nuclear weapons, and in the meantime everybody else is going to die, don't you want to talk and say, hey, wait a second, why do you think that way? Let's talk about it. No, wait, let's put everything on the table. This is how you solve problems. That tells me these guys don't want to solve the problem. They just push it until Russia will eventually say, you know what? Fuck it, we're going to use nuclear weapons. And the guy's going to say, oh, we're going to hit back. We're not going to use it against you. We're going to use it against us. And with that, all die. How about that? If they don't, the Russians don't have to hit, London, Berlin, or New York, or Washington, or whatever. No, they don't hit everything on their territory, and everybody's going to go. And I guarantee you the elites and the big bankers that are in charge of the financial system, I have to mind my words, you're going to say, hold on, stop, these guys are crazy. Until then, they will push and push and push like the bullies that they are not. So let's go to Lavrov. If you see this guy that can destroy things, having this kind of, don't you want to, no, you want to destroy him, you push further to, how do you call it, to make his prediction or beliefs really, how should I put it, come true or get deeper in their thick skulls. That's the way it is confirmed. Is that what you do? You want to have them confirmed besides the fact that I'm just misguided. All right, let's see what Lavrov says. The West has always wanted to dismantle Russia and has gone as far as joining forces with Nazis in Ukraine in an attempt to achieve this goal, he said. The foreign minister made the statement during a meeting with students and educators at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations on Monday, the first day of the new academic year in Russia. The West has always been concerned that Russia is, and it's a fact, too strong, too independent, and has wanted to do something about it, preferably breaking it up. Now remember when Yeltsin was in charge and Russia was very, very weak, we loved Russia. We looked at them like some circus little bear and some strange people around, funny dressed, funny looking, drinking a lot of vodka, like a semi-something. You know, that's how these guys look at them. Look at Bill Clinton when he meets, what's his name, Boris Yeltsin. He gets him like a little brother. You know what I mean? That's exactly how he behaves with Yeltsin. And Yeltsin is all funny and he thinks he's going to have some vodka and some Katyusha and some Kazachok. That's what they think. And the other guy is like, we're going to fuck you up. We got our CIA offices in Moscow. We have our inspectors in your nuclear facilities. You don't, but we have them in yours. We even the US State Department invested and sent its team to help Yeltsin in the second election to remain in power. There's not interference whatsoever. A state sent its advisors in the campaign of Boris Yeltsin. And they talk about the Russian interference with guys from Montenegro on, what was that, Facebook? People, evidence is there. Get off the jerk off and do other things. Check. Let's go back to the article here. And I'm quoting, a very indicative story is repeating itself because today 50 countries have gathered against Russia under Nazi banners, considering the essence of the, and I'm in parentheses, Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky's regime. He continued referring to the military assistance provided by the US and its allies to Kiev amid the conflict with Russia. The foreign minister noted that Ukrainian troops have on numerous occasions been filmed wearing Nazi patches or carrying banners similar to those used by AH forces during the World War II. The denazification of Ukraine was identified by Russian President Vladimir Putin as one of the main goals of Moscow's military operation against Kiev when it was launched in February 2022. Oh, I thought it was unprovoked. Lavrov asserted that Moscow was not going to play by Western rules and will not, and I'm quoting, embed itself into various schemes created without our participation and without taking Russia's interest into account. You should have done this a long time ago, Russia. However, he said, Putin has made it clear that Moscow remains, and I'm quoting, open to contact with the countries of the collective West, with the understanding, of course, that they will abandon their openly hostile policies towards our country. He said, we will continue to respond resolutely to any unfriendly steps. So, my friends, all right, for decades, the Americans and their allies, and I'm quoting, sought total control over Ukraine. They funded nationalists and anti-Russian organizations there. They persistently worked to convince Ukraine that Russia was its eternal enemy and the main threat to its existence, the Russian leader said. So, what do you think, my friends? I didn't like what he said over there. They will abandon, so with the understanding, of course, that they will abandon their openly hostile policies towards our country. So they will talk to them. So I don't think it works that way. So let's say you have a bunch of hyenas trying to devour you, and they put things in killing you, and then they can't because you fend them off, you beat them up, and they can't. And then you're gonna talk to them again? What makes you think they will not try again? So I'm not talking not to discuss or not, but they are your enemies right there. It's gonna take generations and acts, not not words, actions from those hyenas that tried to take care of me in this war right here. And then what, we're gonna talk again? No, you have to bring me evidence, and evidence is not treaties. Treaties are not evidence. Example, how is that called? The Minsk agreements. At least the second one is international law. They didn't give a shit. The Germans, the French were the guarantors of those Minsk agreements. And remember Angela Merkel and Hollande of France. What did they say about that? And Poroshenko, the former president of Ukraine. We just needed time to arm ourselves. We didn't even mean it. We didn't care. Okay, so those are the guys that negotiated, and you had written statements. They violated international law that they signed. You talk about Russia? I mean, I'm not saying Russia is pure whatsoever, but these guys ignore their garbage and point out to the other ones, and these guys do the same thing, but it seems like the Russians are doing it at a much common sense way, in a way that, you know what, yeah, we did it, you did it. No, the other guy says, no, you did it, we never did it. Fuck off then. You can relate in a relationship with someone that she always did the right thing and you always did the wrong thing. And when you say, no, honey, we both made a mistake. No, honey, we didn't. I never did any mistake. You did. Now, what can you do? Can you continue? No. So what's, bye, go, fuck off, and let's go. It's not rock and roll. And then when you get 50, as evidence shows, male population is the happiest and the women's is the not happiest at 50. That's evidence. That's, how do you call it? Science. Studies show the men are the most happiest. The longer they go into the age, they will get happier and more divorces occur and single men become more happier. That's go and check, Google it. And the other guys buy cats and take naps. All right, so now let's see how NATO smacks and drops, or at least verbally, Poland's attempt to get involved. Poland, I think it's pushed towards self-destruction by the masters. And I'm also suspecting the Romanians will be, but they will be last, sent into fighting the Russians when the Ukrainians will be destroyed. The Baltic states are too small to do it, but the Americans will use it until they lose, and then they jump ship somewhere else. And then obviously they try right now very hard in Georgia, not the state of Georgia, the country of Georgia, in the Caucasus, and the Armenians. They are trying over there to create a new front. You'll see. So let me show you this beautiful article from Russia Today, obviously not from the free media in the West. NATO warns members against shooting down Russian missiles. This is from yesterday. Poland has suggested such a move would be its duty. I covered that in a video yesterday, but the bloc appears to disagree. And Americans told, supposedly, this is, I don't know if you ever met this kind of thing. It's illegal. Do it, but I don't know anything about it. It's on you. When they catch you, I don't know anything about it. I told you not to do it. That means, do it, my friend, but don't implicate me. And when the consequences, we'll see what the consequences will be. Don't implicate me. If there are serious consequences, I don't know you. That's for sometimes you don't have to share with people certain things, so you don't expose the thing. When they get by the authorities, they don't know anything. Instead of telling them, and then they will tell, obviously. We all tell. If we're, a little bit of waterboarding, and most people would be, I tell you everything. What do you want me? What do you want me to say? Give me a pen. I tell you. I write whatever you want me. The sky is, green or whatever. I say whatever you want. That's the way we are, more or less. Some people break later. Some people don't even get to that point. They say, "Oh, don't start the session yet. I will tell you right now. What do you want me to say, man? That my mom is a criminal, right there. My dad is a criminal, right there. And then just don't hurt me." And they vote. By the way, many of these, I would say a majority of people, direct experience. Okay, direct experience. Not with the, but you know what I mean. If you don't, stick around. So, NATO does not want to become directly involved in the conflict. So if Moscow reacts in a wrong way, which is not a strong way, to Poland's shooting down Russian missiles or drones over Ukraine, which is an active instituting the no-fly zone for the Russians over there, okay? If the Russians will not be forceful enough, the Ukrainians will escalate, the Poles would escalate, the NATO will, nothing happens, let's go, and then the Americans and others, the Romanians say they will do this, and others will get involved into covering with American support, obviously. But if the Russians will smack the Poles right there and then, real bad, which they said they will, and I guarantee you they will, then the Poles will say, okay, so unless you think Poland is going to beat Russia. And if you think, hey, look at the Ukrainians are beating Russia, so Poland, much, much stronger, is going to just level Russia. Yeah, but those guys ignore the fact that it's not Ukraine fighting Russia, it's about 50 countries fighting Russia, and Poland is one of them. So, right? And then if the consequences, the Russians just smack the Poles around with a few missiles, or maybe one, would put the Poles back on their heels, I tell you that, and they will cry to those guys, and the guys will say, I told you, I don't know you, it's getting shitty here, I don't know you. That's why they're going to react. Then the Poles will have to suck something from the Russians again, and ask them for forgiveness or something. Or maybe get involved in a proxy war, which is too late at that point. They will ask for forgiveness. Sorry, my Polish friends, if you think that I'm just bad towards you, the same thing the Romanians will do, okay? So I implicate them, so you think I have something about. No, that's the way it's gonna be. That's the way it's gonna be. Now, if the Russians don't react forcefully, as I said, those guys will say, like a bully. The first one is, hey, what are you looking at? You don't smack and say, well, I'm looking at you, I'm going to come and punch you in the face. Okay. And the bully is going to be like, stop. Oh, man, I was kidding, man. Don't get so riled up. That's what the bully does if you act like that. Like, what? I'm going to smack you. What? I'm looking at you. I want to smack you. I was just kidding. Happened to me many times before. Instead of saying nothing or come on, man, what's wrong with you? Oh, that's a weakness. And then say, yeah, man, you and and then escalates. You have to stop it right there. Risky business if you bluff. And I think the Poles are bluffing. Well, let's see, bluffing. They see how far they can go. And I'm pretty sure they're pushed by the masters. So NATO does not want to become directly. Of course, they want to punch but not be punched back. Involved in a conflict with Moscow, the US-led bloc spokesperson said on Monday, addressing, you are already involved, but they just used euphemism. You are involved. I said, addressing demands from Ukraine and statements by Poland's foreign minister. Kiev has repeatedly asked its Western backers to shoot down Russian missiles and drones in its airspace as its own air defenses became degraded. A security pact to the effect was signed with Warsaw in July. And I'm quoting, NATO is not a part to the conflict. You are and will not become a party with. You are and you will. A spokesperson for the bloc told the Spanish news agency Europa Press, adding that the bloc's responsibility is to prevent escalation. Oh my God, such a garbage. Yeah. While each member of the bloc has the right to protect their own airspace, they should closely consult with others. When doing so can affect NATO as a whole, the spokesperson said. When hostile missiles are on course on entering our airspace, it will be legitimate self-defense because once they do cross into our airspace, the risk of debris injuring someone is significant, Sikorski, this is the foreign minister of Poland. So, my friends, that's about it. What do you think the Poles will do? I think the Poles will continue doing that, and they might try that. And the Russians will report. The Poles will not report. The Russians will report, hey, the Poles' missiles came from Poland and, hit one of our missiles on one of our drones. And the Poles will say, no, it was not ours. And then we'll see what the Russians will do. Will they say, fuck it, that's my evidence, I'm going to smack you? It's like someone, you stay in a bus and someone touches your balls. What the fuck are you doing? And the guy says, I didn't do anything. What are you going to do? Because you saw his hand. You exactly look at him. What are you going to do? You're going to smack him? You're going to break his neck right there? Or maybe he's going to start fondling his balls in return. Love is love. No, lust is lust. Because when these guys are talking about love is love, no, they talk about lust is lust. Because they're talking about fucking and... Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.